welcome to HBCU Real Voices, Real Impact. And I'm here with Tiara Robinson. Robinson.
Yes, nice to meet you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, meet Miss Tiara Robinson, an empathetic counseling professional currently pursuing her doctoral degree in counseling and supervision at Hampton University. With a master's in education over a decade of field experience, she is dedicated to guiding individuals on a transformative journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Ms. Robertson resides in Virginia with her family, is described by clients as hardworking, caring, loyal, and trustworthy, specializing in co-occurring disorders, partic- particularly with the opioid population. She actively contributes to both clinical and court settings. Serving on the opioid task force in Prince William County, alongside her practical experience, she aspires to shape the next generation of counselors as professors at Hampton University. Ms. Robertson's educational journey includes a certificate in trauma counseling, a master's in educating and counseling psychology, and a Bachelor of Arts in Physiology, with therapeutic approaches ranging from addiction, substance abuse, to trauma-forced interventions. She invites clients to join her on a journey towards positive change and growth. So welcome. I'm so glad that you decided to be my second person to interview on my series.
I appreciate it.
So what advice would you give to someone considering attending an HBCU?
What advice would I give a student that's going to attend an HBCU? So whether it's HBCU or any university, I always advise like my mentees or anyone to really kind of explore the culture on the campus. Look at the academic programs of the university is very, very important because many times, especially depending on which field a person is deciding to go into, you have to make sure that your university is accredited. Kind of do your research and background on your university. Because there's been times that, I've had mentees that attended universities and they weren't accredited or they were in danger of losing their accreditation, which depending on your field, such as my field in psychology and social work, we have to graduate from schools that are accredited, right? That could be very, very problematic down the line when we're talking about licensures and things like that. And so doing your research on the culture of the university, the different academic programs that they offer, any extracurricular activities, whether, you're deciding to do Greek life, or any other type of, Black student activities and things like that. I always recommend that when you're in high school to kind of start doing those college tours and attending the different campus events and connect with other current students. I have mentees that, connect with me, or I'll put them in connection to some of my friends that are actually or on the different boards at different universities, right? And I'll say, go to the school and visit, do the college campus tours, because to me, you don't have that feeling that this is where you should go or belong until you're actually in the mix of things, right? And so a lot of times people just be like, oh, well, they accepted me and they're going to give me this lovely scholarship to come to their university, but you haven't done no research on the school itself. Right. So I would advise the student to, make sure to tour the school that you're interested in, have an idea of how things are ran on the campus. And including dormitories, that's very important. Clark Atlanta had some issues with their female dorms with plumbing at one point in time, with heating and things like that. And when you're talking about, coming from the East Coast and going all the way down south, air is very important when we're in class in the summer, right? And so these are things that you're able to kind of, point out, be aware of, but also be able to get a sense if that is the decision you should make.
That's really good advice. Um, what role has Hampton University played in shaping your cultural identity?
So I'm going to say this. So before I decided to go to an HBCU, my introduction to HBCUs would be kind of not a little bias here, but it was a different world. It was the Cosby Show. It was the Fresh Prince, right? Martin. I enjoy watching them when they would change their hoodies and their crew necks with the different schools, right? But me watching growing up, and I'm gonna say this: everyone that knows me knows A Different World is my favorite show. I will rewatch it over and over. A Different World was my introduction to HBCU life, right? And so to be a young girl and sitting in my grandmother's living room and watching A Different World, I was like, I want that. I love that, right? The sense of unity, right? But to be proud to be Black and be educated by people that look like you, right? And so my HBCU, even though I went to Hampton, I did undergrad for a semester at Virginia Union, which is also a HBCU. They all have played a huge pivotal part in influencing my cultural identity, right? They provided an environment for me that celebrated not just diversity, but also a sense of pride, right, in my
Mhm.
heritage. I am very, very big on history, right? And so the rich history and traditions that HBCUs provide you, they provide you a very unique but empowering experience, right?
Mhm.
And so I felt that feeling that I felt as a little girl watching A Different World when I stepped foot on my very first college experience, which happens to be at Virginia Union University, which is a HBCU.
Wow, that's so inspiring because you're like the second person who told me that the shows when you were younger influenced how you wanted to go to college and how you wanted to be educated and just be different. That's really inspiring.
For me, with the education component, okay, so for me, I've always been, when I was in school, we would have to take different exams. And if you scored high, they will try to come into the urban neighborhoods and try to bust the students out to the predominantly white schools, right? Because they wanted to diversify the schools, right? And so I always happened to be one of the ones in that bunch, right? So when all my friends were going to the neighborhood schools, I grew up in North Philadelphia in the Logan section. They all went to the neighborhood schools, but for me, I got bussed out. And so my very first experience of that was second grade. And that was my experience when I was spit in the face by two white males and called the N-word. And my mother was not a happy camper. And after that, I got pulled out of school and went to my neighborhood school. I have this conversation a lot with my mom and tell her like my different experiences. I've experienced where teachers would teach things and tell me to put my hand down, told me that the information was wrong, especially during Black History Month. Um, and so for me, it was kind of like you were invisible, fade to the black. Like you have to put up with this because they are the educators. So they know, they right, they're correct. It wasn't until my mom took me after the experience of being spit in the face, took me out of the school and put me back in a neighborhood school where I was then taught by Black educators, which happened to be women. And they started to feed my my passion and my interests, right? So I was diagnosed at a young age with ADD, attention deficit disorder, where my white educator teachers would embarrass me by sharing that in front of classmates. My black and make me feel different. My Black educators, they fed that, right? They
Mhm.
taught me early on how to use something that people were trying to make as a negative, and for me to be able to turn it into a positive. Me having that has been my greatest asset because I can multitask like there is no tomorrow. I'm very organized. And my professors and my teachers early on noticed that, and they really embraced that. They taught me how to be proud of it and not to be embarrassed by it, right? But I did not get that when my mom was putting me and I was getting tested and busted into these predominantly white institutes. Now, having this conversation with you now, I'm thinking back of my experiences of going to predominantly white institutes. So when I left Union, I came back in state and went to a predominantly white school, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I got my master's at Temple University, which is a predominantly white university. I know the difference of how my professors breathed life into me and my HBCUs versus me going and attending predominantly white universities, right? I know the difference of how my white educators treated me compared to my African American educators. So it's a total different experience, but it taught me early on. It really prepared me for the workforce, right? And this is why I'm so passionate about education, why I'm passionate about us knowing our history and understanding it. My great grandfather used to always tell me, Tiara, if you know where you come from, you know where you're capable of going. Right. And so no one can ever tell me who I am and where I've come from because I know my history. I know where my people come from. And so for me, it's important for me to continue to keep breathing life into that legacy, to pass those torches on to young students coming into the field like yourself. And eventually you guys will be the ones to pass the torch to my daughter when she's in your seat.
Wow. That's wow, that's really amazing advice and amazing intel coming from someone. What initially drew you to choose an HBCU? And can you describe the moment you knew an HBCU was right fit for you?
What drew me? Legacy, academic excellence, the supportive community, right? The importance of being able to have that opportunity to be part of a vibrant culture tapestry, right? So I said early on that I'm very big on history, right? So I know what it took for our ancestors to get to that moment where they were able to create and build something of their own, right? I understand what it takes to continue to take and continue to build onto that legacy. And for me, it's very important. I try not to take that for granted, right? I look at the different doors that God has opened for me, the tables that I've been granted to sit at, right? And I think back of how our ancestors were not, and many times um being able to be presented those different opportunities, right? And how they passed it on and fed that knowledge into their children, and those children were the ones who broke down those barriers where they were able to go to predominantly white institutes to then eventually be able to build our own institute to teach our own people, right? I understand the importance of that. I understand the importance of representation. I know what it feels like to sit there and look at someone who looks like me, who understands the experiences that I've went through. You know, coming from North Philadelphia, being raised by a single mother. I lost my father to cancer at age when I was 16 years old. You know, to have professors and educators who have walked that life, whether they came from Philadelphia or they came from Virginia or they came from Atlanta, Georgia, right? Or came from LA. We've all had different experiences that help shape to continue to keep building this legacy to pass it on. I don't take these opportunities that God has presented to me for granted, right? And so choosing to be educated in an institute with my people is very, very important. It's very important to me. It's personal because I know what it took for people before us to be able to build these things for us to be presented to us, right? And so my first experience really was Virginia Union. My first experience was me attending Virginia Union University here in Richmond, Virginia. That was my first experience. I did not take my advice because I didn't have anyone to give me this advice before when I was 18 years old coming on that campus, right? So I didn't tour Union before accepting it, right? I remember how I even got into Union. I never even applied to Virginia Union. I happened to be at a college tour and one of their reps had came to me and approached me and my friend who is Hispanic and was like, "Hey, you guys have, a copy." They used to give us like a copy of our transcripts and stuff when we would tour around. And we had our paperwork and they wanted us. They accepted us right then and there, gave us a scholarship and everything. It wasn't enough, unfortunately, for me to finish my education there, but they gave it to me. So that was my introduction. But I'm going to tell you the moment that I knew I was at home. I took an African American history class at Union. And we learned the history of Virginia Union. Virginia Union, the campus that they sit on now, is not the original campus. The original campus was actually on a slave plantation. And when the slave master died, he passed it on to his wife. And what she ended up doing eventually, her descendants ended up selling portions of the land to the educators. And it was made to educate African Americans in higher learning. They eventually moved to the campus that they're at now. But I remember sitting in that African American history class and learning that, right? And I remember our class was in the auditorium. And I remember looking around the auditorium and I was like, wow, I got this Black man sitting in front of my class teaching me about something that just lights a fire. It's something about history that just lights a fire in me, right? And then I'm looking around and I got educated Black and men and women that are 18 years old like me and sitting in this class, and we all just got feedback. And it was just a feeling that I just can't describe. I knew then in that moment that I was home. And I stopped crying also. Because when my mama dropped me off, I cried. I called her. I was like, y'all got to come back and get me. Why would you leave me with these people? But it was that moment that I stopped crying. I knew I was going to be okay. I knew I was home.
Next question is, how has the sense of community at your HBCU impacted your college journey?
So the community within itself, it definitely has played a pivotal moment in my journey, undergrad and in my doctoral program, right? To me, I think that, attending my universities, we're very tight knit, right? It's very supportive. And it goes beyond academics, right? My friends that I met at Union, even down to my roommate, we are still friends to this day. We still check in with each other, right? I met my husband at Virginia Union. He graduated there, but I met my husband, and even some of our friends that we met on campus were at our wedding, right? It's a lifelong family, right? It's nurturing, right? And I know the difference from my friends and stuff that I met in undergrad, but also going through this journey with my doctoral program. My girls, my cohort are very, very supportive. When I actually found out that I was pregnant with my daughter on January 1st, right? And then 5 days later, I remember getting my acceptance letter to Hampton in 2021. No, 2022. Yes, when I got the acceptance. And so when my cohorts found out about it, they just surrounded me with love. We talk on a regular, we have a group message, we text every day. They call me the advisor because I keep everything in line. I'll be like, hey, did y'all see this? This is due. Everyone, they have questions, they know to call T. That's just that. But they've been we have been a great family to one another, right? And it's a feeling of sisterhood. If I could think of anything, because my cohort, we're small, it's 9 of us, but we're all women. And it just to see how successful all of us are, right? We all work in different avenues, still in the mental health field. We have some that's in school, some of us that are in agency, some of us that's in the judicial part um of psychology. But many of us are mothers, married, and so we're able to just support each other, and not just getting through this academic journey, but also through personal life, right? I had got sick, and then I had got really really sick after having my daughter, and like they mailed me care packages. They mail me care packages, to the house. We just support each other. And going through a doctoral program is not easy. It is not easy. But we hold each other accountable, right? And it's no hate there. You know how sometimes you surround yourself with a lot of females, and then one gets intimidated by the other. It's none of that, right? When we talk to each other and we pray with each other, we sit there and we say we started this journey together, and we gonna cross that stage May 2025 together, right? And even though we're all have different avenues of our dissertation, we still be like, hey, how's your research going? How's this going? We there's no hate there, right? There's no animosity there. There's a sisterhood there. We are family. And to me, I can see this, that I've gained some extra sisters that's going to last a lifetime. And so to me, it continues to keep impacting me and really pushing me to be my very best, because there's times that I doubt myself and I'm like, I'm crazy. I done had this, got married, had this baby. I'm in this doctoral program. I work full time. I do private practice. I do community work. Like, how are you doing all that? And my girls, even when I get down and I be like, man, I'm not doing it. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. They breathe life into me. And they're like, nah, we're not letting you go, sis. Like, we started this, we're ending this together. And so to me, it's very important to have a tribe around you.
It's amazing that you have that sisterhood, that family relationship with and that it grows over time.
Yes. And it's
Can
very,
you?
including when you're in undergrad, right? And I'm not saying
Yes.
I didn't have this in undergrad, because I do. I got my girls that I am still friends with to this day, right? We've supported each other. We've seen each other through good and bad. But it's very important that when you establish those relationships, that you continue to keep feeding into those relationships. It's very important.
Can you share a memorable experience that emphasized the spirit of your HBCU?
I mean, HBCU experiences is many. I have many memorable experiences, right? Attending homecoming, the homecoming games, the band, right? Like, just all the festivities that have it, right? Um, I went to homecoming. We went to homecoming this year at Union. And I brought the baby. And so she was just amazed, like the drums and then the football game and the music, the dancing. My husband is a part of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and so seeing the frat, and she was able, and she's a little thing, so she don't like people getting close to her daddy. So seeing her dad embrace with his frat brothers and them singing and stepping, it was just an amazing feeling, and she was just lit up, right? She was in heaven. Everybody wanted to give her something, and so Brennan, having those experiences myself and endured them in many schools, many HBCUs. I've went to Howard, homecoming and stuff. You get a different feel from each school, though. I will say that. I've always been the type, no matter what school I went to, if homecoming came around, I was going to another school's homecoming because I wanted to experience that, right? I love the games. I'm not into sports, but I love the games and the hypeness. But for me, it's more of the music, the band, right? And so just to experience that, it kind of feels like a big Black family reunion, kind of like that's really what it gives you, right? The food, I go for the food. The food, yes. Barbecue, everything, you know, you depending, and that's what I'm saying, depending on what school you go to, you can get some good barbecue down in the South. So, you know, all of those memories shaped my experience, you know. And of course I have to say that, you know, it was at HBCU that I found, you know, my now husband. So, you know, all of those things have shaped your experience at an HBCU. It's just family, you know, it's your close bonds with your community. And for me, I feel like they have a lasting impression on you, you know.
So I'm a baker, and for my fundraiser, for the pageant, I'm baking baked goods. What is one of your favorite baked goods?
I'm going to say I like chocolate chip cookies. That's just me. I'm not really a sweet eater.
You're
You have
not.
to have that conversation with my husband. Yes, you have to. My husband likes pies, peach cobbler, blueberry cobbler. Yeah, me, I'm chocolate chip cookies, and my favorite cake is strawberry shortcake, you know, or strawberry cake. That's me, but I'm not really a sweet eater.
Is there anything
But if
else
you
you would
got
like?
some chocolate chip cookies,
I'm gonna get you some.
throw it on my way.
You'll bring them your way. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Um, the only thing that I would like to say is just that, you know, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. But, you know, also that, you know, just do your research when you're no matter what school, you know, and I'm not sitting here trying to advocate and promote Hampton. But you know, or promote any HBCU, but I just say, you know, do your research. And you know, I'm always and especially with research, like I have a mentee that I, you know, tell like all the schools that she applied for. I was like, create yourself an Excel sheet. Put the
Mm,
schools, how much the tuition is, how much your room and board is, how much it's going to be for the 4 years, right?
mm,
If they're offering you a scholarship, how much the scholarship is, what is it going to be for 4 years? Like those are the type of things that I want you guys to take in consideration, right? When you're making decisions to go to any school, whether it's HBCU or not. It's just making sure and preparing yourself for, you know, your follow-ups and things like that for, you know, your tuition and stuff like that. Because I
mm,
hate like when you're getting ready to finish your degree and you're like, oh, I maxed out, you know, on my financial aid and things like
mm,
that. And it's like, hey, so I want you guys to just, there's scholarships out there. And I tell people that all the time. There are resources out there. It's just that sometimes we don't know that they're out there. You
mm,
know, the other night I couldn't sleep. So I was searching scholarships and I was sending them to I have a client that's 17 is getting ready to go to college and she's applied to only HBCUs. And so I sent it to her and I have a girlfriend from college, her daughter's getting ready to leave for college and she was like, she seen my post and was like, T, can you send that information to me? And I sent it to her. You know, just the resources are out there. You just have to search for them, right?
mm.
Especially being a minority woman, there are many scholarships out there for us. You know, it's just that you have to take your time. And yes, it's time consuming, but get it done. And if you get it done, everything else will fall into place.
Thank you so much for being a guest on HBCU Voices, Real Stories, Real Impact. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.